Hi there. Welcome to Cats in the City, by Sith Sense. I'm Johnny.
And I'm Pearl.
Together, we would like to share with you pieces of interesting knowledge that we find.
And that could be useful to you in the future.
Pearl, I want to write some codes today.
Sure, let's open our Colab notebook. I'll write some code and you try to guess what the code does, shall we?
Challenge accepted.
What do you think this code is trying to do?
It's a simple mathematical addition, x plus y plus z.
How about this code?
It's a multiplication, x times y. Pearl, this is too easy.
Okay, I'll give you a tough one. How about this?
X times 2. What could that mean? Let me check. It says here, this is an exponentiation. I know, x times 2 means x to the power of 2.
Ha, you've a cheat sheet.
I've done my homework. There are many online references for Python. I got this from w3schools.com.
Yes, that's one of the benefits of learning Python. There are many online references. I've used w3schools.com many times as well.
Let's use what we've learned so far and write some code.
See this? It's a bit of a jump, but do you know what my code is trying to do?
BMI equals to W divided by H squared. This is a BMI equation. BMI stands for body mass index, hence W stands for weight in kilograms and H is height in meters. So, if I put in my weight as 70 kilograms and height as 1.75 meters, and run the code, why am I getting an error? It's a name error saying W is not defined.
You're correct that it's an equation to calculate BMI. But the way you wrote the code is wrong.
What do you mean the way I wrote the code is wrong?
Every programming language has its own syntax. You can think of syntax like grammar in English language. If you read the error message, it's telling you that the W in the BMI equation wasn't defined. You should write it like this.
I see. I should define the variable W and H before the BMI equation. But why is there no output after I run the code?
Since you didn't get any error message, that means the code has run successfully. There's no output because you didn't write any output code. Do you remember the print function from the previous video? Generally, if you want to output the BMI result, you should use the print function. See?
In that case, wouldn't it be faster if I just code the formula into the print function like this?
You are right and wrong at the same time. You can code the formula directly into the print function, but I would argue that, using a simple calculator would be even faster. But what if you want to calculate the BMI for 10 people? How about 100 or even 1,000 people?
I see your point. If there were many people, it would be a very laborious work, to key in all their weight and height, one by one.
To reduce the labor, we can build our own function, and then use it whenever the need arises.
Building a custom-made function is very easy. You use the def keyword to build a new function. Def stands for define. Basically, what we are doing is defining a function.
This is the syntax to build a function. Def, followed by the function identifier or the name of the function. We can give whatever name to our function, but it's recommended to use a descriptive name. Here, I name our function as BMI calculator.
In Python naming convention, you should not use a space within a name. Instead, you should use an underscore.
Next, you input the weight and height variables into our function. These inputs are known as arguments or parameters for our function.
To pass an argument or parameter into a function, you simply type the name of the input inside these parentheses. Remember to put a colon after the parentheses. That's the first line of our function.
Next, type in the BMI function as before. Notice that this second line was indented.
In other programming languages, indentation is mainly for readability. However, indentation is very important in Python. Python doesn't have a sentence terminator. To start a new sentence of code, you simply start a new line. However, the function definition is a block of code. To start the second line in a block of code, you need to indent the line. All this is done quietly, in the background by Colab.
After that, we can use the print function to output the result of our function. Usually, we'll leave an empty line between code sentences. But for function definition, I would recommend to leave 2 lines.
This is the conventional way of writing code in Python. I would advise that you follow this as a habit since it's also recommended as the best practice.
Let's call our function. Calling a function is easy, you just type its name like this. I'll put in my weight 60 kilograms and height 1.68 meters as the parameters. And there, my BMI is 21.26.
Let's calculate my BMI. My weight is 70 and height is 1.75. My BMI is 22.86.
Apart from the print function, you can also use return for the result. Generally, we should always use return for our function, instead of using the print function.
To use return in our function, we'll remove the print function and replace it with return.
You'll need to create a new result variable to store the result that will be returned from our function. You can use a very specific name like BMI_Perl, to store my BMI result. Likewise, BMI_Johnny for Johnny's result.
Or you can use a general name, a simple BMI will do just fine. It depends on how and what will you use the result for. The general rule of thumb is to make it descriptive. However, please don't use the same name as the function name to avoid confusion. Be careful when you use a general name this way. Every time you run the function, you are assigning a new value to the variable. The new value will overwrite the old value that was held by the variable. The variable will hold the latest value only.
In Colab, if you want to output a variable, you can simply type its name like so. You don't necessarily have to use a print function. You can think of this as a convenient Colab shortcut.
You need to be aware that this shortcut generally works for every type of data, but you can always use the reliable print function if you are having problem with it. As for other IDE, you will need to experiment with them first, to know for sure.
Did you notice that the syntax for our BMI equation and function is very natural? Like how we would write a mathematical equation or an English language.
Readability is one of the key strengths of Python over other programming languages. As a high-level programming language, Python is very readable like a natural language. That's why Python is loved by so many new programmers.
Actually, to be honest with you, our code isn't very efficient. We still need to key in the weight and height manually. Moreover, our result variable only holds the latest BMI value. However, don't worry, as we'll revise and improve it further, after we learned a few more tricks in the next video.
That's all from us this time. I'm Johnny.
And I'm Pearl.
Bringing you bits and pieces of interesting knowledge from cats in the city.
Thanks and see you next time.